So, have you unpacked everything, Ion? Trash, Bull, and Buddy, open?
We're getting a little closer. Everything's out of boxes, but I wouldn't say that all the rooms are set up. A lot of rooms covered in doodads and knickknacks.
Yeah, man, doodads and knickknacks, you gotta have them, you know? Makes
All
the house
day
feel like a
long.
home.
Hey, the important thing is we got a comfortable couch in the gaming room.
There you go. That's
the first room that's got to get completed. It's the gaming room and the man's den, right?
I think it's Robin's
Well,
den.
in this case, it's actually his and hers, but yeah.
Alrighty, and we are live.
Oh, God.
Oh boy. Welcome to Station 42. I'm your host. You can't wait to ghost of Adrian Malik, and with me today is our co-host.
Traz Ion, keeper of the spice.
The water of life? Oh, great. Vader and his drugging Traz again.
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
Where are you getting that stuff? Hey, on the note of drugging, did you know that an Oklahoma court recently ruled that it is not rape if the victim is unconscious?
Amen, brother. Hey, Trash.
What?
Come here, buddy. Oh,
I sense a state that needs to be burned to the ground.
Well, you know, today's show is also brought to you in part by...
Politics.
Funny.
Spam. Musubi. Sushi.
Harkonnen Pharmaceuticals. Do you have a problem? Is that weird growth always trying to tell you what to do? Has that lusty Xeon maiden giving you a bad case of the scales? Do you have rapid hair loss or hair growth? Whatever the problem is, Harkonnen has a pill for you. Our pseudo-synapse technology allows us to reach deep inside to find out where it hurts. Just 3 pills, and we promise life will start to go your way. Harkonnen, we're headed to a shelf near you.
Pseudosnaps is a subscription service. Harkonnen makes no promises of affluence or well-being. Early termination fees may apply. I think
Additionally,
it's going to kill me.
Nope, because I practiced that and I did it right the first time. Pseudosynapse is a subscription service. Harkonnen makes no promises of affluence or well-being. Early termination fees may apply. And additionally, our broadcast is supported in part by the StarCitizen Facebook community, aka Ready Player One, and the StarCitizen subreddit, Twitch, Twitter, and of course the amazing people at CIG that keep our community thriving. So if you're a backer or you're about to be a backer, then you need to stay tuned to us because we're the place you want to be.
Take a deep breath.
That's right. Creative support with Mr. Irv Nation. May he always shoot first.
Today, I'd like to introduce a special guest, Anubis, a fellow Star Citizen, killing it all the way from Washington State. Anubis, how are you, man?
I'm doing great. I'm glad to be on. It's a pleasure being here.
Excellent. Welcome to the show, brother.
Yeah, thank you.
So apparently I'm supposed to do a fake Italian voice, but unfortunately no one checked with me and I am unable to do that at this time. So
Okay,
I'll have to do the
gelato.
Giving me the spaghetti. Let's go then.
Yeah, we got to get better writers.
Oh my
Gotta
God,
love
we
it,
need
right?
better writers.
Hey, what can I say? Last minute, that kind of thing. Anyway, a few of us got a prospector. Who else got one? Anybody else got a prospector? Anybody?
I
I'm thinking
myself did
about
not.
You did
Thinking
not?
about it.
I did not. I am not a mining type of person.
Really? Oh, fair enough. Fair enough. How about you,
man.
Mr. Godric? You now that the ship is out, I know last week we were theory crafting about it, but now that it's out, did you pick one up?
Not yet. I was contemplating to melt my Scout for one, but in its current state, I would melt the Scout, but I also understand that it's going to be revamped and redone and everything.
Right.
So
And the Scout's just downright beautiful too. So
yeah. So what I did for now is I got a 325A to Prospector upgrade. I don't have a 325A, but
nice.
idea,
But you'll always be able to go back to it. Yeah.
Right. My idea is that when the Dragonfly comes out, I can upgrade it to a 325A and then go to a Prospector from there. That way, I'll still have LTI on it.
Yeah, no, that's a good idea. I know I'd like to get a couple in the fleet just because for organization operations and whatever else. But I just I haven't figured out which ships I want to dump for that, or if I'm going to do something where I do like a temporary upgrade for later. I don't know. It's frustrating because the ships that I would upgrade are in a package, which means that if I want to use these duplicate ships I have no use for, but they're in a package they've just been sitting there waiting specifically to do this I can do that, but then I miss out on the hangar flare, the poster, the stupid concept stuff. And I mean, call me a flare whore, but flare whore.
No,
But,
no, we don't do that here.
That's kind of
I don't do that at
I
all.
am with LTI. I would rather have LTI than the flare.
right.
Well,
Yeah,
You can always
I-
make
I
it
was-
back anyways once your LTI is going to pay for itself.
right.
I-
Like flare, you can buy and it'll sit in a hangar, and it's not like it's
And
gonna
you
get
know
destroyed
exactly
in
what it
combat.
is.
But LTI, man, you always want to have that if you can.
I mean, I do think that the Prospector is going to be a very valuable ship. I mean, it's like the Orion, but you can operate it with just one person, and I can also see several prospectors, 4 or 5 prospectors working in
With a whole B.
working together with an Orion.
See, I went ahead and I looked at my fleet and I realized that I didn't really have a legitimate way of actually making money should I actually get blown to bits and need to recoup money and such. So I went ahead and traded some things out for that. So
Nice.
I guess I'm the lone one who has went ahead and bought into it.
Honestly-
I'm going to, but we have until Monday. So if you're a listener and you haven't been paying attention, you have until the 2nd. So basically through this weekend and then through Monday. In fact, the question and answer thread on the first 13 of 27 questions was answered today, and it's up on the main RSI site if you want to check out the Q&A on it. Some interesting stuff there. Did you guys have a chance to look over it?
Have not yet, actually, and I don't want to get my facts wrong, so I don't want to go and read over it real quick and then try to spout it out and say, yeah.
Well, I guess one of the points that I saw that was kind of I don't know if I'd call it controversy worthy, but they talked about, one of the questions asked whether or not other ships will be able to attach, mining equipment to be able to simulate, or even if their space frame isn't quite as good as the Prospector in its specialized nature, will they be able to do that? And the answer was, it looks like no. It looks like they're like, well, the ship's not going to support those pipes for like processing and all that kind of stuff, so maybe not. I don't know. What do you guys think about that? I mean, even if you're not a miner, that still affects other ships too.
I mean, that's why I was saying earlier, why I think the Prospector is going to work really great with another refining ship like the Orion or something like that. You get the raw ore with the Prospector. If you're just a single player by yourself, you can do some basic refining and still sell your ore. Or you can get the Prospector, mine the raw ore, bring it to the Orion for better refining, and then sell it at a higher cost.
Right.
My envisioning of the Prospector when I first saw it, because I saw the Orion and then I saw the Prospector, and I thought the Prospector would actually be an interesting ship to do under the radar or illegal mining, because if you can get in, it's a low profile ship. I mean, size of a freelancer in an asteroid belt. Unless you're looking for it, you're not going to find it, and unless it has a big refining ship attached to it. So I was thinking it actually might make more sense for some people, and especially a heavily patrolled, heavily guarded area. They sneak in with a Prospector and maybe a Caterpillar, hide the Caterpillar, and then just take the cargo and run.
Who's
Yeah,
to
I can
say
see
though
that.
that your electromagnetics might be off the charts though when you've engaged the laser? So there's that to think about. And
Well, I suppose so, but it depends on how big an area you're working in. I mean, if you've got an organization that's trying to cover down on a whole section of space, but you only show up on sensors at like 10 to 15K out, I could see like trying to slip by and do some little ninja Monty Hall runs.
Also, did they talk about whether the pods that you could leave down themselves are detectable? Like, will they give off electromagnetic readings?
Good question. I didn't see that question asked when I was reading through the Q&A thread, and it definitely wasn't answered in the 13 questions they answered today. But that's kind of interesting. I would imagine that they wouldn't. Or there's two parts of that. On the one hand, I imagine that since it's ore, it would give off no particular signal unless it was like some kind of radioactive
Uranium.
right. But at the same time, you got to consider the electronics on it it's got to have a beacon system specifically so that you can come back and find it. So it's I imagine like you probably toggle it on or off.
And see, that brings us to the next subject that I was going to drop in there. The ability to drop pods and keep moving seems kind of risky. It could be prone to theft. Is that possibly another job for escort and security?
Yeah, sure, absolutely.
Because you got to sit there and babysit those pods in the area where guys are just going like you have 3 or 4 prospectors that just are independently mining. You're going to need a force of security there to keep the cutlasses from tractor beaming all the stuff away.
Well, what is more valuable to a pirate, the refined ore aboard the Orion, or the prospector, or the raw ore sitting waiting to be picked up?
Right.
It's probably the refined stuff, honestly, because I mean,
And
it's a higher return on investment, and if the pirates, like we said, are searching for those prospectors and those Orions,
why shoot the ship?
Well, I can imagine the scenario now. You've got dumb pirate 01 who's new to the game, who shows up and is like, "Hey, drop that bucket of dirt. I'm taking everything you got." Like, all right, man. Here's some rocks, man. Good luck with that.
There's like 27 behind him and he can't see it.
When you realize that there's no profit in the bucket of dirt I just gave you, can you go ahead and drop that off at the refinery off planet and save me the liftoff fuel? And
tell
matter of fact,
Benny
I'll just give you a job. Like, you just run back and forth.
Make the pirate into
just gets duped into becoming a
Nice.
the back and forth boy.
That'd be funny. I'd like to watch that one. So really quick question. What about the subject of claims? Are there going to be turfs of asteroids? Do you think that Subin's going to own a section, like a whole asteroid field, and that if you're not with the company, you can't mine that area?
I doubt anything will prevent us from physically mining, but there might be
Guns.
repercussions for your actions.
I figured guns. I figured like Subin
guns.
security would say, "Hi, we don't appreciate that."
See, I was thinking, and I don't see why this wouldn't be a possibility for Star Citizen if you jumped into, or Quantum jumped into, a asteroid belt, and it's owned by one of the mining companies. They have these beacons that send a transmission to detected ships. You're like, hey, this is an asteroid field owned. You have to pay like a certain fee,
Kovalex.
like a license fee. Yeah, like you jump to Kovalex. Yeah, and they can
like
send you a message.
This is a closed area. Please go away. Gotcha. Yeah, okay. I can see that.
And if you don't pay, they call in security.
Yeah, I mean, I imagine that that'll tie into the faction system, reputation, whatever they want to call it. It'll if you get caught, it would be just like breaking and entering on a junkyard. You potentially.
What about player owned?
What's that?
What about player owned claims?
When they talked about the instancing system so long ago.
Oh yeah.
They had said that they wanted to have it so, like, if there's an asteroid in space, it's not just going to generate 8 instances with the same asteroid. It's more like, if more people show up, they'll be in space near the asteroid, but only that original instance has it, because they wanted resources to be able to, where you could basically mine them out. So you might be able to completely tear out all the usable minerals out of a given, space rock.
Yeah.
And eventually you could. I have a question for you guys too. What do you guys think about now that we have planetary procedural planets are in the works, and they just gave us a ship that can mine on planets, which is something that we were never promised before. So that's super cool. But what about the profit ratio that it takes to lift off from planet surface to space? Are they going to make it like it is on Earth now, where like the value, it has to be so much more valuable to justify lifting it from planet side to orbit? Or do you think we're going to magically be
Xeon technology?
No, I don't think that's going to be a factor at all.
I think it's going to be pretty negligible.
Yeah.
I think that the Xeon technology, that's what MISC is known for having that. So maybe it's so efficient that even if there was a cost involved, it would be relatively negligible. Like
Huh.
basically to say that these thrusters are much better than your standard UEE thrusters, so they'll get you down there and they'll get you back up just
I guess
much easier.
what got me thinking along those lines is if they add like gravity effects to the flight model, and eventually maybe even they add atmospheric effects to the flight model when you're in atmosphere, and so that it turns into some spaceships just don't maneuver in a combat capable way while down in the atmosphere while others do, then you have a reason why, unless there's an extra cost to landing on a planet that justifies it, it seems like a planet would always be the better place to mine, because you're already down on the surface, you've got so much more mineable materials compared to an asteroid. The benefit of an asteroid over being on the planet is that you don't have the cost of getting it from the surface into space.
Makes
So I
sense.
figure there's got to be some checks and balances, as far as otherwise you'll just have all the miners will go into the atmosphere so they can hide out, I guess.
It'll be also interesting to see if they make any of the more inner planets or systems have planets with populations on them that you can just go mine on, or if there are repercussions for doing so.
Here's a
Fracking.
crazy question.
Go to your enemies, your enemy faction's world, and go frack their planet for oil.
That's funny. No, this is a funny theory. And oil, by the way, I think oil is mainly if life forms have been on the planet. Funny thought there. But the question I got is, what about gas giants? So, like, in theory, gas giants have either a solid or a liquid core. Is it possible that you could actually mine the solid core of a gas giant? I mean, would the gravity be too high? Would the temperature be too high? Or would there be some gas giant that you could actually feasibly do that in, albeit risky?
I mean, I think there's a couple factors there, and I mean, you could just look at Jupiter to get an idea of what that would be like. I think that if they actually implement gravity to the flight model, your ship is, one, going to be ripped to pieces. Two, if it's not ripped to pieces, the massive magnetic storms on there are just going to destroy your instrumentation and your ability to do anything.
That's going to be awesome.
But there are.
I want to be able to do that, even if it means death. Yeah. I want to be able to try. Have you guys ever played Star Control 2 back in DOS?
I
or on
can't
3DO?
say that. I played Outpost. That was it. Sorry.
Or even there was another one. It was Starflight on like Sega Genesis. But these games where you could drop a landing, or even Mass Effect. The ship flies in and you drop the lander, but some of the planets had corrosive environments, or really the terrain was terrible. You basically,
or windy.
I hope that we have those kinds of options.
I'm hoping for that too, and that's the reason why I was thinking it. I would like to be able to at least feasibly on some of the gas giants. You wouldn't know until you tried it, and so that would be the reward for you actually be willing to risk life and limb, is to go down and actually be able to successfully mine a planet that everybody else would just pass by, saying, "Nope, I'm going to die trying that."
It would be interesting.
I think having a good science officer will play a role in that too. Like maybe if they use any element of real science where we as players actually have to kind of learn our planetary classifications and the tectonics, and make a judgment call. Put the judgment call in the player's hand.
Let's go mining on Io. That'll be fun. What'd you have, Anubis?
So I mean, this is just two things actually on the gas giant aspect, because I've read a lot of sci-fi and I've heard there's a lot of theories about what it would take to ignite a gas giant.
Oh man!
I think that'd be a ridiculously awesome plot that developers could throw in,
a methane gas giant.
Yeah. Basically, have somebody accidentally spark one.
We show up in Vandal space with our dreadnought ready to whoop some ass, and the Vanduul are like, "Hey, buddy, have you seen the bird? The bird is the word." And they start, screwballing up that middle finger, and then they fire their super cannon into the nearest gas giant where we've staged our forward operating base with refining facilities, and just ignite
all you
that
hear is
motherfucker.
Boom. All you hear is boom because of the gravitic pressure. Just in it's a methane oxygen mix planet that's just sitting there swirling and broiling, but it's just always been a little bit too cold to ever ignite, and then bam, instant fire triangle.
do all gas giants consist of volatile gases like that?
Liquid
I
I
doubt
methane
think
it.
and
they're all
Jupiter.
different, but
That's what I
They're-
thought. Yeah.
They
Did
said
you guys
that-
hear the interview with one of the CIG staff? And she was talking about I think it was
Lore-
a lore builder. Yeah.
Yeah,
She was
lore
talking
builder.
about how she's trying to get baby gas dwarfs in like every system.
Wow.
Because they're a lot more common than we originally knew. I love that they're actually trying to bring in as much real science as they can. You know.
That is good.
I-
I'm
Yeah,
glad
I
to
can
hear that.
appreciate that. I certainly can appreciate that.
I just wish there was orbital mechanics.
Oh, well, yeah. So
Like
basically,
Kerbal
speaking
Space
of,
Program, you mean?
oh boy. So as mentioned that 2 Drake ships are going to be released soon. I don't know the specifics on soon. I just
Why
know
not?
that they well, because soon has always got a trademark on it, and I'm
Yeah,
not allowed to
yeah,
use
you're
it
right.
until I actually give credit for the people. Anyway, any ideas as to what those might be? Buccaneer, Dragonfly, Cutlass revamp, Caterpillar. What would you like to see? Drake needs some love. And by the way, the Caterpillar pictures look awesome. If you're a subscriber, go check those out in the vault.
Yes.
I think
Have you
probably
seen-
before anything, the Cutlass revamp is going to come real quick. I
You
think
think
there's.
so?
I mean, it's
I'm hoping
already
so.
flight ready, and I think they have the assets ready to, and they have people begging for it. I think that we'd see that and a ship release, one ship release, not 2 ships released at the same time or similar time frame.
I mean, that would blow me away if that's actually what came out. Just because I've been a longtime lover of the Cutlass. It's actually my sweetheart. It's her favorite ship. It's the first ship I bought her way back when, and that ignited her interest. It's
Yeah.
it's a weird ship. It's not a ship for everybody, and I like that. It's just that the Cutlass has seen so much debate and so much controversy because what it's supposed to be has changed and
So
morphed.
much.
Yeah, and so whatever side of the fence that they finally stick the Cutlass, I can't wait to see it. Just because I've wanted it. It was the first semi multi-crew ship we ever saw, but it was so broken that no one's really flown it. And I mean, people still barely ever fly. It's
Well,
I have a video where me and some guys did a reverse insertion onto Korea from the back of a Cutlass, and I was literally the only one who made it there because everyone else either got killed by the ship as it flew by, or
Wow.
got sent right into the planet.
Ow.
Oh my god.
Okay.
If you had that link, you should toss it in the Twitch stream.
Yeah, I can do that real quick.
Nice.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
well, as far as the question though, as much as I would love to see the Cutlass, I think it's probably going to be the 2 concept ships that they've been talking about. Probably the Dragonfly and then maybe the Buccaneer. As far as concepts.
I'm excited for both of them. I still hold my ground that I'm disappointed with the Dragonfly, but I think that Drake needs a lot more attention, and so with that in mind, I'm looking forward to seeing what they come up with anyway.
Well, I think you're right that Drake needs some more attention, but I also think that every ship manufacturer except for Aegis, and technically I suppose Misk is getting some love now.
Yes.
Basically,
Misk is
everybody
there.
else needs love. Now,
Yeah.
as far as the ship I want to see the most, as much as the Cutlass would be cool as shit, the Caterpillar is the one that
Aha.
has my heart.
Call it.
Oh man, it is just it was the least popular ship of all ships sold over all time when they took the poll like a year and a half ago, and so
Wow.
of course it's my favorite ship, or one of my favorite ships because nobody loves it, and it's blocky, it's ugly, it's one of the few ships that has retained its asymmetry. Yes, it's symmetry.
You know what
and,
I see though when I see it?
It's going to be so modular that I think that people are going to be blown away. It's going to be a cheap, easily to maintain ship that can do anything pretty much. I mean, it's going to be able to, it's going to be ugly as sin, but it'll be
Pirate
a
Hospital.
true pickup truck ship because you're going to be able to work with it.
Well, I mean, when I see it, when I look at the Caterpillar, I always think to myself, Alien and Aliens, Sigourney Weaver, the old horror movie.
Wait,
Every
what movie is that?
You know what they are. You'll be fine.
Who?
You'll be fine. It'll be okay. No, but seriously, I think about those old movies, and I'm thinking that's the ship that I would see in those movies. That is an exact representation. You'd almost expect to see it all slimy and dinged up and grimy.
5
just-
by 5. We're in the pipe.
There you go. But if they don't have an auto loader on it, like what she had on there, that would be that would be a disappointment. I want a giant robot to go and smash alien queens on it. That should come standard. Oh, come on!
I
Yeah.
myself am not a big fan of the Drake ships in general. I don't know. I've never been I'm gonna be the downer here. I think that I think
God
the
damn
Cutlass
it.
is cool inside. I think the design is. I don't know if you've seen the dance video that was posted to Reddit a little while. They had a
Wow.
dance party in the back of it. It was pretty awesome. People who
Nice.
did poorly got ejected through the porthole on the bottom.
Nice.
But in general, the designs are just I don't know. They don't look as sleek as like
But
Aegis
that's
or.
that's a beautiful thing, though. It's meant to be rugged. It's meant to be out. Like it's basically this is your lumberjack with a beard kind of ship. I mean, it's not meant to be pretty. It's meant to get the job done.
Yeah,
It's
flown
meant
by
to get the
Blackbeard, right?
ladies.
See?
Now, the thing is, though, is as much as I love the Aegis ships for being slick looking, they're still airplanes in space, though.
And
Who
they don't
needs
really.
wings? Come on.
And they don't have anything much for cargo, I don't think. So that's the reason why I support the Cutlass is so much is because it is a jack of all trades along with the Caterpillar. The Caterpillar is supposed to have a hospital module, so you have your secondary hospital ship right there, and that's the pirates have to have a hospital ship. I'm guessing. I'm guessing that not very many pirates are going to have an Endeavor for long, so.
Well, I don't know. I honestly think the Endeavor is going to be the hospital version of the Endeavor is going to be clutch. I don't even know that I
agree.
like that they talked about you being able to spawn ships from it because it kind of breaks immersion to be able to like magically spawn ships from it. But I mean, I guess I get what they're going for because they get at some point the game has to be a video game and they have to make it easy.
So it's a spawn.
but-
It's not an actual like flight mechanic to you.
Right, like basically.
I didn't know
you
that.
can- Yeah,
I didn't
well, I
know
mean
that
that's
either.
what they had talked about. I mean, who knows? I mean, it's so far out what the final version is. But the thing is any organization that worth its salt that wants to be deep range is going to end up needing an Endeavor in order
Yeah.
to
Or a Caterpillar
handle-
in your case.
what's that?
In that case, Caterpillar that's outfitted as a hospital ship. In that case,
Well, I'm not even talking about respawning people or healing people. I'm talking about being able to
respawn
have that
ships.
carport for traveling ship hangar.
But isn't it just a? I want to say Cutlass Red or less. So
What's that?
So whenever it spawns ships, isn't it only going to be able to spawn Cutlass Red or less?
No.
So I can
There's
spawn
no
an
such
Idris
thing.
from an.
No, anything that fits in its little carport.
I think it would make more sense to have like the only spawn capable ship be like one of
Aurora.
the carriers or like a
Make it an
Pegasus
Aurora.
carrier.
Even then, I as much as it might suck, I think logistics needs to be a huge part of the game. So anything that breaks that down and makes it easy, where you can just click into a menu and
Yeah.
spawn your ship, I think is kind
Abuse.
of bogus. I mean,
Well,
it needs to be. I mean, because even the space stations, once you assign your ships to whatever station, whatever planet, whatever, that's where it
Mhm.
needs to stay until
And
it either
that's
gets
what they've said.
impounded because you run out of money
had-
to pay the fees, or
I've heard it said though that that's what you have to do is you're going to assign your ship to a certain area and you have to go back and get it. And if you
Right,
if you
right.
don't, you're just SOL. Or you can hire a guy to take a ship from point A to point B. They don't have to know where the quest comes
Correct.
from or who. So that would be a
We-
micro quest for a pilot.
well, and that's what we've all been told since day one. It was only when the Endeavor came out that point of like, oh, it's gonna spawn ships, and we're like, what?
I don't
Yeah.
think so. I don't think that it's going to spawn ships in the way that we're thinking. I'm thinking that it will basically be able to be a quest hub for small single
Sheep.
seat ship. See, you didn't make me
God
do it.
damn those sheeple.
Just a bunch
The-
of
the
M50s
single
in the
sheet
cargo
ships.
bay.
There you go. Yes, single sheep ships. What kind of engine drive you got? Bah. Got to be able to make fun of yourself, otherwise you can't do this.
I've
kind of
got a
thing.
Back
Anyway.
to the Future ship.
That's
I hope the
badass.
pirates decorate their Endeavor like the Serenity people did to the Firefly.
Oh.
Or, yeah.
strap some corpses to the front.
Yeah.
There you
Make it
go.
look less pretty.
It would look like a great Reaver ship. It really would.
It really does.
Wow.
Wow, I'm inspired.
All right, Trash, you got this question? You know you got this question.
Oh
You
wait,
got
questions?
this
What?
Yeah,
We're
there's
here
a
to ask
question.
questions.
Okay, well, what about the mining lizard? I was going to ask you about this. Can it be used as a weapon?
Oh yeah. They actually directly answered that in the Q&A. They said that it's yes, it can be used as a weapon if you want underpowered or high power draw, low damage, short range. Basically no. I mean, can
Not
it
an
do damage?
effective one.
Yes. I mean, if your opponent is just parked and you lock into them, I suppose. But it's not meant to be a weapon. It's yeah.
See, I was thinking of being an awesome slaver ship. You would just go in and like latch on to an Endeavor, and you'd cut a hole through it, and you would tractor beam all the people out. Zap, 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 zap. Oh, 27 people. Thanks. Have a nice day.
Thought that's what the Redeemer's for. And Redeemer
No, that's
is
for-
like
that's
a
for
the
breach
claw.
charge.
Oh man.
They call me the clamps.
Clap, clap, clap.
What's the robot's name in
Dr.
Futurama?
Zoid.
Clamps,
Zoidberg?
right?
No, Bender.
No, not
Bender.
Zoidberg. Clamps. The
Oh,
angry
okay, I
robot.
got you.
Yeah, like
I got you. I
isn't
got you.
his name like Rodriguez? No, that's Bender.
Are you talking about
Bender.
Bender?
I said Bender, didn't
God
I?
damn it.
Yeah, you did.
Anyway, clamps. Name it the clamps.
Oh dear lord. Like now I'm thinking of cigars and fucking asshole. That's Bender's character. So go figure. All right,
Bite
so
my shiny metal
middle
ass.
ass. 2.4 features Theorycraft release. What do you think is going to be around in 2.4? Any ideas?
I've heard some rumors.
I might have some thoughts.
Go.
Silence.
Oh, well, tell us. Are you going to tell us, or are you just letting us know?
I gotta let it.
Yeah,
I gotta give them
we've
the
heard about
suspense, right? So
Don't
no,
you know
I,
how the hype train works?
I have heard rumors that certain new ships will be flyable. I mean, I think that I don't know if this was posted anywhere, but I've heard on good authority, Starfarer is probably or is flyable, and the Starfarer Gemini is flyable. I haven't heard anything what you're gonna do with a Starfarer in the PU, but
Right.
let's see what happens.
Yeah, and the thing is like, I think it came out of a reverse the verse because I remember it was blowing up on Twitter, and my sweetheart, she was telling me about it, and I'm like, no, baby, that
Aw.
can't be true. That's not right. That's somebody's got it confused. They got their wires crossed. And then,
Robin,
like,
you're a sweetheart.
and then the next day, I'm looking through the notes and everything, and I'm like, oh, under the context of it, it is very likely. I guess because it'll be the military variant, so they'll need it for Squadron 42. So they've probably been working on it concurrently. I imagine since it's only the internal portions of the ship that are getting changed over to have the Aegis stylings, I guess that'll be pretty easy, and they'll have very similar flight characteristics. So yeah, it's possible. I hope so. I'm pretty excited about it. I definitely want to see the difference between the Gemini and the base version, because right now I have an upgrade to the Gemini that has been sitting on since the beginning, that I don't want to use until I know.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, it'll be interesting to see what happens because they have kept the lid really tight on other features that might be coming out. Those
Right.
poor early alpha guys with their NDAs. I think that it'll be interesting to see if simultaneously they introduce some sort of cargo hauling mission, even if it's as basic as pretend cargo appears in cargo bay, or it tells you that it's in your cargo bay and you take it from Port Olisar to maybe like the
Next.
ICC probe or whatever.
Yeah.
Bring her some food.
Well, I think they've talked about the beginning. They talked about a lot of stuff, and you had to listen carefully to hear that they said that all of that was going to start with 2.4, but wouldn't necessarily be in right at the beginning. But I do think that I guess they're talking about the item port 2.0. That's a big thing that they're pushing really hard on. So I imagine that will be in.
Oh yeah.
And that's going to change a lot of things, because I think that's where like you can take items and put it in a storage container inside the physics grid of your ship. It means you'll actually be able to carry multiple items on your body. We'll get to see clothing, which means, because that's tied to the item port system, and that means that we'll probably see the very beginnings of the whole buy sell aspects.
So I have a question here, and I don't know if you guys have discussed this or if you've heard about it. So I've heard rumors that stealing ships, and we go back to the griefing conversation we had before we went live, stealing ships might come in 2.4, and the ability to keep your ship that you stole. And I'm curious, and also with the obviously with the if persistence becomes a starting thing in 2.4, how long do you guys think they're going to let people keep ships that they either buy or steal in
Oh
the
my god!
how long are they going to be able to keep them? A whole
I don't know,
alpha
man.
patch?
You just blew my mind, because I would like, as you were saying that, I'm like, holy shit, how will that work? Because that means like, oh my god, no one's gonna want to leave their ship to do anything.
Exactly.
But I mean, if it's a bigger area that you're working in, and I imagine they'll be expanding the map quite a bit, maybe you won't see players quite so frequently, maybe even if now you really have the true ability to shut off all power in your ship, and your ship just doesn't show up on scanners, unless it's inside of a visual radar, outline. Or
would item 2.0 actually also start up the insurance? Because then you could just wait for your ship to come back while they keep a clone.
I don't know.
I would think
maybe.
it has to have some sort of insurance quality. I mean, it's also a way to like encourage people to get on the PU, because these Aurora pilots that are like, I only have an Aurora. I don't know if I'm going to have a lot of fun. They can hop in and be like, man, I could just steal somebody's Retaliator right off Korea. I'm getting in that game.
Yeah,
Best
that's
of luck to
true.
you.
It's funny though, because I always hear people complaining the other way around. They're like, well, I'm just not going to play because people can steal my ships.
Oh,
It's like,
whatever.
man, half the time I summon ships for people to fly. I'm like, hey, you want to fly? Go for it.
Amen.
Yep.
But, most of the people that are playing now have tons of ships. We're the early bird fanatics.
Well, we're going to be the core group of the community of the game, and so it's going to be interesting to see these newcomers come in, like, a month after launch, like, wow, what does this ship do, and all this stuff, and we're going to be like, here we go again. It's going to be a kind of old hat to try and explain it all.
Every org is going to need a lot of trainers, just dedicated trainers.
Yeah.
Just run them through the grills, just get them to where they need to be, just to get started.
It's hard to believe, I mean, there are things that we take for granted now that really were quite a challenge to get through. I mean, there's so many aspects of this game, the learning curve. I don't know. I mean, if they do a good job making it intuitive, it won't be too bad, but
yeah, but having to learn how to actually make your own config file so that you can finally turn off motion blur, things like that. Just those little bitty.
That'll get set where we can turn that off in the
eventually, but they won't appreciate it as much as we will, because we'll just have like a checkbox. Whereas before you'd spent like a whole night crying and halfway pissed off to tears, pounding the desk.
Want to talk about that?
Oh, I know. We're leading up.
Doing the XML files to build your HOTAS.
Yeah.
Holy good God.
We're leading into that direction. That's exactly what I was going to hit you up with next. So
what?
Yeah, well, let's go ahead and proceed on with getting to know Anubis a little bit better. Is that good for you, Anubis?
That's fine with me.
Got any other closing arguments with the previous topics?
No. I just hope 2.4 brings me some cool stuff.
Well, don't we all?
Man.
All right, so what kind of space sims have you enjoyed in the past, and how do they compare to Star Citizen?
Oh boy. Well, and I'm not as much of an old timer as some people here probably are with Wing
Thanks,
Commander.
man.
Yeah, I feel real young now. I appreciate it.
No,
DOS,
but
what the hell is that?
my first space sim was actually Star Lancer, and then quickly went into Freelancer, and basically Freelancer was my space sim for quite some time. I branched out into some EVE Online a little bit, but realized I was never gonna catch up to the heavy hitters in EVE Online, and I got out of that pretty darn quick. But it's comparing them to Star Citizen, they're absolutely nothing. I think the best comparison would probably be Freelancer. I see a lot of Freelancer and Star Citizen, not just in the name of the ships. But I think it's great.
Well, you remember the guy who actually who concepted and consulted for Freelancer was Chris. So
yeah, so I'd hope to see a lot of it.
So now fair play. You got to turn that question around. What about you, Vadron? What was your baby space sim experience?
If you really want to know, it's an
or just
old
space
Windows.
game in general. It doesn't even have to be sim.
No. Windows 3. Originally, the very first one was actually Space Quest, It was made by Sierra, and you had to do the 3.5 disc. You had to do the change out all the time on that one. But
Oh, yeah.
the one that I enjoyed the most was back when I had a 16 megahertz with a turbo button to 32 megahertz Windows 3.1 system.
Whoa. Slow down.
I was smoking, right? No, the point is, it had a little game hidden on it, and I finally found it. It was called Outpost, and you can go and find this game on Abandonia. It's got a glitch in it to where your population, but the whole gist of the game was mankind's, the Earth is doomed and yada yada yada. So you're going to send everybody on this rocket, and you're going to go and terraform another world. So I was actually learning about terraforming at the age of like 8, and
Nice.
it's been a big influence in my life because ever since then I've loved computer games. I never could beat the game, never could get any better because it actually had a glitch where your population would just eventually die. So it was kind of a buggy game, but at the same time, I always looked for games like that ever since, and moved into other games similar, such as Civilization 2. And
Ooh, did you ever play?
went from
Did you
there.
ever play Alpha Centauri?
I wanted to. I wanted
It's
to.
one of my favorite Sid Meier games.
And and then I went to the first-person shooter world with actually an obscure Doom clone, Terror of the Catacomb. It was
Oh, cool.
actually made by Apple, and it was instead of
Oh boy.
well, that's the funny thing about it. It's really hard to find. I'm thinking that you can find that on some of the other abandonware sites too. But it was basically Doom with magic missiles, and so
Did you ever play Hexen?
Can't say that I have.
It was like a Doom clone / but fantasy.
I played Freelancer, and I said I wish there were more games like this, because when I got to Freelancer, it was a really old game anyway.
Mm-hmm.
But I was like, I wish there were more games like this, and it just so happened I was talking to a guy at work one day, and he said, "Hey, have you ever heard of StarCitizen?" I'm like, "No, what the hell is that?" Well, you need to go check it out. And then I got to reading up, because I had read up on the history of Freelancer, and I knew that history, and I put two and two together, and I'm like, wait a minute, the guy that was making Freelancer good is making another game. Okay, I'm in. It didn't matter what it was. And then to come to find out that he was a movie director later, I was just I was shocked, because I love The Punisher.
He made like Lucky Number 11, and that's a pretty damn good movie. And he's got a few other good movies. I was pretty impressed.
Dogs of War? Dogs of War?
Yeah.
And so I'm all about. I jumped in, but my very first game actually was Space Quest. And it was just a little blocky Sierra game where you're stuck. Of all places, you're a janitor aboard a ship, and you're stuck inside of the janitor's closet. And as soon as you make your way out, this Cylon-looking clone of a character comes out, and if you don't know to avoid him, he shoots you. So yeah.
So I knew
Just
you
saying,
guys
man,
would be more old school than
you
me.
guys need to look up Star Control 2, the Urquan Masters. It's actually DRM free and completely free to download legally. It used to be on DOS, then 3DO bought it out and had it on console, and they did like voiceovers, and they improved the graphics to HD.
Yeah.
And anyway, and then eventually that went under, and so now it's actually completely free, and it's been like sorted out so that you can go and download it. But classic game as it is, man, it's really really fun. And
Oh boy, I'm Google imaging it right now.
the villain in that game won like top 10 video game villains of all time.
Wow.
That's a good one.
It's a good game. Anyways. So what about FPS? Are you into any of the FPS?
Oh yeah, like right before I came over and joined you guys, I was doing some Arma 3.
Nice.
I've played every Battlefield game besides apparently the best ones, Bad Company. I didn't play any of the Bad Companies. I was busy with school at the time and didn't touch them, but played every other Battlefield game title they've released, and I tried out the demo of Battlefront, like the new one that just came out.
Yeah.
And I thought it was way too easy. And then when I heard about all the content controversies, I was just like, I'm not going to get involved in that.
Right.
For the most part, I like more tactical shooters anyways, so Arma 3 is kind of my game.
Yeah.
How about Counter-Strike?
I've been meaning to get into Arma 3 forever, and I've I've managed to avoid it just because I kept holding out for Star Citizen's FPS, and we still don't really have it. I'm like, oh well, whatever.
Counter-Strike, I actually just bought a month ago, and I haven't really touched a whole hell of a lot. I think that it's an interesting game. It reminds me a lot of League of Legends, except with shooters, especially the community that's in that game.
It looks like we have a guest in our Twitch channel stream, and they're saying that apparently you're a really huge WoW FPS shooter.
That was he's probably referring to the time that I did not play the Bad Company games. It was probably because I was on World of Warcraft.
Nice.
Must have been
we
a
all
hunter.
have our shameful moments. It's all good.
I was actually a no mage. Okay, thanks.
Oh no, Mr. Blink a lot. Okay, I got you. Anyway,
Nice.
so you've been on the leaderboards before. What do you think it is that regular pilots do that the leaders on the leaderboards do differently? What do you think is the dividing line between a novice and a guy that's exceptional?
So I was thinking about this question a lot, and I've had a lot of discussions with some of the top leaderboard people. And, I mean, obviously, Renegade Squadron, they're always up there. And I think the major thing is
Lag switches.
I left it open for you.
I'm joking. I actually have no opinion on that controversy, but it's still funny.
Besides lag switches, no. I think the first thing is having the tools at your disposal to beat a novice. So, I mean, all of these top players, I mean, aside from a few who run around in Gladiuses, they will use the Hornet when the Hornet is the best ship. They will use the Saber when the Saber is the best ship.
Right.
And just knowing the meta, and they look at all the XML files, they analyze the damage, they look at the spread, they make sure that they have their spreads perfectly matched up.
Oh no.
They do. I mean, it is a spreadsheet game. At the very beginning.
Yeah. Spreadsheet Warrior 3.0. Got it.
But at the same time, those guys are great pilots. I fought against some of them one-on-one, and they are. I mean, I was a mouse and keyboard pilot until very recently, and I could only really go toe-to-toe with a few of them because I just can't outfly a HOTUS player if I'm a mouse and keyboard player. And I think that's another thing that a lot of people don't understand is this game does take a little while to get used to either mouse and keyboard or HOTAS, but a lot of these pro players, they know their HOTAS. They're extremely comfortable with it in Star Citizen. When you get a novice in game who's never had any experience, they're gonna get destroyed. And a lot of it, and I don't want to say, there's a thread on the Arena Commander forums on Star Citizen that talks about whether it's actually skill or it's noob smashing, I think is the word they use.
It's think not noob smashing.
There is some credit to that, though. I mean, there is a lot. The free flight weeks are a great way to get your rank up. I mean, if you go,
there's a point in time where I was playing in Battle Royale daily, and that was all I flew. And my experience first of all, I don't have my rankings on the boards. I have that turned off because I don't want people to know whether I'm good or not. I like to keep that private. Plus, if I have friends over, they're logged into my account, I'm like, yeah, get in and play. So I've never given two licks of shit about my ranking. I also like to experiment with a lot of different loadouts. I like to play around. I like, so I'm not competitive about the numbers. But what I am competitive about is survival in the persistent universe. And even though that's a long ways out, the way that you train for that is definitely different than the way you play or train when you're trying to just be strong in the leaderboard. And what I noticed is I would roll into a battle royale. I would find the ace pilot, and I would go after them exclusively. I'm like, you're the toughest motherfucker on the battlefield. I'm gonna tangle with you. And what would happen is we would square off. We would exchange fire. I would be difficult to kill. They would be difficult to kill, and they would break contact and go after easier targets. And so I'm chasing them around while they're chasing the noobs around, and they're just racking up the kills, and then I'll kill them. And then and it's. And so, and the thing is I don't actually complain about that, because if you're in a conflict in the persistent universe and you're, squaring off fleet versus fleet, and you go after your opponent, you're going to want to take out as many of their easiest targets as quickly as possible. So there's actually merit to that as far as training, but as far as like determining who's the best, basically they're playing a PvE game using lower skill players as their NPC cannon fodder to raise their rank. So yeah, the noob smashing thing definitely happens, and because you're high on those boards don't make you that great at that don't make you the best pilot ever.
And I just want to say one more thing on that point is that I think the other large part of it is the ace pilots, they all know each other and they all play together. And if you go into a squadron battle and you get matched up against a team of 4 of the top 20 guys, I mean, most people in Star Citizen right now are not that organized. You get occasional like test squadron, those kind of people who do events in the PU, but for the most part, there aren't that many groups going into Arena Commander organized and calling out targets and focusing targets, and it just doesn't happen. And that's really what sets the groups apart.
Yeah, and that's all the kind of standard stuff that you would see in any professional raiding guild, and the people that are going to take it seriously and dedicate themselves are definitely going to shine for it, and so they earn it for that. Like I've got no beef with that. But and I can't even complain. Like, I mean, if I were playing Battle Royale, I would kill anybody who's easy to kill too. So, and that
go
would
after
reflect.
those
So,
Avengers.
what are you going to do? What are you going to do? What are you supposed to not shoot at people because they're easy to kill? I mean, come on.
That's right.
There's like a fair fight just doesn't usually happen. I mean, if it's a fair fight, that's cool, but that means you made a mistake.
I mean, there's nothing more satisfying than two-shotting an Avenger with ballistic cannons.
Actually, one-shotting a Merlin with the quad lasers on a Vanguard is pretty fun.
That would be pretty great.
It's satisfying. It just has a satisfying crunch that you just can't get out your head. It's like breakfast in the morning. Crunch. Wake up.
So let's talk HOTAS. You said you're new to it, right?
Oh yeah, I got my Warthog Thrustmaster stick and throttle on Saturday, and I'm still waiting on my CH pedals. But I'm extremely noob. I'd never used a stick before in my life.
Poor guy.
I now something like I'd said that I would give you some of the advice that I can in regards to that. How you set up your buttons is going to be totally up to you, but first thing you want to do is you want to look at all the commands that you have and you want to prioritize them. And that's probably pretty obvious. It probably doesn't even need to be said, but basically, if any of our listeners are listening, they don't know, whatever, you're going to take the buttons that you need to use in combat. Think of it from a PvP standpoint, even if you're a player versus PvE player. You want to have all your, I have to have this in an emergency kinds of buttons.
Really
at
close.
The points where your fingers can reach them the easiest. And then you have your buttons that you use all the time. Like for instance, when I finish quantum jumping, I have to re-engage. I have to flip G-safe and decoupled every time because it always resets that. So I have that easy to reach, but it's not the button that's under my finger while I'm flying in a fight. Your directional stuff, your strafe up, down, left, right, forward, back, all of that, those are going to be super important. So you want to make sure that you have that under something that you can use all the time. I like to separate out. Okay, so on a stick, you're aiming. Have you ever been in the military? You ever fired a rifle?
No, I have not actually.
I have.
Okay. Well, then this may not explain it. Basically, you want to remove everything that moves your hand that's doing the aiming. Like professional FPS players will take their trigger buttons, like how a mouse normally you left click to shoot, but that movement of your finger, that micro movement of the muscles, moves your mouse ever so slightly while you're going to click. And if you're trying to be a precise aiming, it messes up your aim, right? Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes total
Same
sense.
thing with the stick. Like I have my firing my firing solutions, my group 1, group 2, I have those moved off to the left hand side. I have those set on my throttle, so I don't fire from my stick. I use my stick exclusively for aim. I actually bought the Warthog specifically because it doesn't have twist, because I didn't want any additional movements that would mess with aim. I mean, even though people that get used to twisting a stick, they like it. That's why I went with pedals. Go ahead.
I don't know. It makes sense what you're saying on the one hand, but that is not my experience. I mean, when
Which
I
part?
both in regards to the mouse and to the joystick. So when I left click to fire with my mouse in an FPS game, there is no micro movement at all. That it may be a mouse setting where there is movement. I mean, in that case, I'm going to say people just have their mouse set up wrong. But I mean, I have a dedicated gamer's mouse, and it does not
Yep.
it does not move one iota when I click it. Now, as for the joystick, yes, you're right. If you don't have a dead zone where you have twist or roll, then that would be a factor. I have fire set up on the joystick, so I use it to aim as well as to fire. Um, I have dead zones set up to avoid exactly that micro movement that you're talking about, and that's not just for aiming, but that's also for turning and rolling.
Right.
So,
I have one
Well,
of the old.
I guess the theory behind it is if you're a sniper or you're using a real rifle, the pounds of pressure that it takes to squeeze the trigger to when the weapon fires is enough to actually throw off your aim. You may not feel like it does. You might think you've got it because it's a split second, but it is an actual thing. And that's why I suggest, and and the bottom line is it going to make you a better player? Probably not. Is it enough that it's going to change you from 20 on the leaderboard to number 1? Maybe not. I stack everything in my favor that I can. So
I don't know.
snipers.
I mean, I think that would apply more, Ion, if you're actually moving while firing. But I mean,
Yes.
I'm looking at it right now. I have my mouse cursor trained on a single pixel. Okay, and I left click, and it doesn't move.
Right, but and I agree with you. If you're holding it still with a mouse, that so actually sniping with a mouse isn't really as negatively impacted. But it's the moving and shooting that's the issue.
Right.
It's the same way as pulling roll off of your stick and sticking on pedals, or taking strafe up, down, left, right, taking it off of the stick and sticking it on your left hand. If you can move all those other movements off of the stick, then all you're doing with that is aiming. So.
Well, in regards to shooting and accuracy, what you're getting at is basically how snipers have a heart glove, that left hand or the right hand, whichever hand they are, that's a really thick, heavy, padded glove, because even their heartbeat can get them off of their target on their mark. And so, yeah, I could see where somebody, if they had like the slickest mouse in the world, that they would accidentally overfire or get click real hard in the excitement of a moment and would miss, and that would probably drive them nuts.
Well,
so some people might move it to a space bar or something. That would make sense.
Right. Well, gaming mouses have the whole DPI setting thing too, specifically so that they can simulate slowing down the precision. So I mean, and we don't really have that with the. I mean, I guess with the stick, if you use the target software, you could set up a button and then have it where it actually changes your entire curve settings when you need it. So basically, it would be like you would manually control your what do they call it? The stupid the effect in game that slows down as you get closer to your target. I'm having a brain fart.
I know what you're talking about, and I think your argument makes more sense in regards to joystick, because if I'm rolling at the same time, or I'm chasing after somebody, so I'm already moving my joystick. So when I hit that trigger while I'm also moving the joystick to maneuver, then I could see how that might throw it off just enough for you to miss your target, versus a mouse, especially when I'm sniping, I'm holding it still anyway, versus when I'm shooting from the hip while I'm running.
So maybe I'm the novice here, but I always said I do actually happen to have a flight
Whoa, whoa,
stick. I
whoa, whoa.
just
Call
don't.
it, call it what it is, noob.
Man, I'm getting trolled by Ion. This is weird. Anyway, I'm a novice when it comes to the flight sticks, and it's perfectly fine. This is our sibling rivalry. Remember this? I'll get you back later. Don't worry about it. My deal is really simple. I have an old Logitech 3D Pro, like the most basic flight stick that you can possibly get, and I've always used the twist on it for a yaw. So, like, whenever I'm flying on a flight sim, I would always have the yaw right there instead of having the pedals, because
Right,
my broke ass
classic
can't afford pedals.
atmospheric flight model. Yeah.
And so that's I just I'm having a hard time seeing how that could affect precision, but maybe it's just me. Eh.
I mean, anything that affects your micro movements, especially in a game where you're engaging somebody. I mean, like this one. I mean, most ship engagements aren't happening at the same distance as FPS. So I mean, you're at 3,000 meters and you're trying to hit a fly on a wall.
Yeah,
Anything that
right.
affects
Right
it.
now, the damn crosshair is
Horrible.
it gets in my way more than anything.
Oh, okay. So I'm not the only one seeing the giant crosshair just show up in the middle of.
Oh,
Okay.
it's always there.
That annoys me. Well, okay. I think we beat the hell out of Hotas for a minute. Do you have any what kind of interest do you have in terms of gathering intel? You said that you have a political bias, so pro Terra Earth, or what do you think about the politics in Star Citizen? What really intrigues you about it? What are you looking forward to seeing?
See, what I've always liked to be, I did a lot of politics and spy games and that kind of stuff in Freelancer, and I'm sure Mirko, one of my friends from back then, could tell you all about it. But the idea that I had for myself and my group is kind of existing on the outside of that conflict. Like I'm very interested in what's going on in the Proterra Earth UEE conflict, or not conflict, but the political conflict. And I'm also much more interested to see the freedom that CIG gives players in the universe to affect their politics of their own game, as well as affect players' politics. Because I think that's something Eve did fantastic, is having those politics.
No kidding.
Having the player run society, basically. And I hope to see a lot of that
Lord of the Flies.
Yeah, I mean,
Oh,
I
boy.
want it to kind of be like an all-you-can-eat buffet out in the outer worlds, and that's why I think that existing externally from those lore-driven politics gives the players more freedom. It also makes it a little more interesting because you look at everything kind of in an unbiased way, and if you see something that really affects you, say like there's a summit and it gets, like, I don't know, bombed by some terrorist organization within the UEE, you make your own choice about it. You're not predetermined.
Right.
You see it from the outside.
Right. Basically, you can just respond naturally rather than having to find meta ways around the in-game mechanics to do so.
Exactly. And I think that as far as intel gathering, whoever pays better is going to get the intel first.
Well, hey, I'm always buying good information. I'm just gonna put that out there.
Oh, boy.
And it'll be interesting to see how much of the intel gathering side of the game and the money making aspect of that comes from the NPC side of things and comes from the player side of things.
So that
Huh.
I'm going to interject here. You said that you didn't like Drake ships, so that makes me think of the Herald right when you said that.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be a Herald pilot myself. I think it's a really interesting idea, and I certainly, if I'm a leader of an organization, I'm going to have a lot of people spying for me.
Huh.
And
Interesting.
it's an unpopular opinion. Like I think it's very interesting. And
I don't think it's well. I don't know. Yeah, go ahead.
I would love to, I'm personally the one that would be sitting in. I would love to be the guy sitting in my cockpit looking at, on my Mobiglass, a grainy video of a secret transaction happening out in the middle of nowhere between two organizations that I both hate. and seeing them come to an agreement. Those are the kind of things that I would love.
That you probably
no,
sit
it
in my
sounds
way
cool.
so I could go and make ruckus. Gotcha. I'd love
That's
to.
it's,
I'd love
that's
to help you
100%.
with that.
That's 100% in lore, man. That's awesome. You're going for the experience, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yeah, no. From my side of it, from like, you know, I mean, I run some things with my personal asset. I'm not going to plug my own stuff here, but I will say that I guess philosophy wise, I'm very much about like collecting data, not necessarily so I can infiltrate an organization and destroy them. I'm not down for that. That's not really my motive. But I do believe that good intelligence drives good operations. If you don't know your field of battle, whether that field of battle is economic, political, or combat, then you've got no business sending troops in. So processing your information in real time in such a way that you can maneuver on whatever your preferred battlefield is absolutely going to be it's too important to ignore. So any organization that wants to snub their nose at it because the idea of intelligence or intel or gathering information can be used as a dirty word because of how some organizations may choose to try to use it or abuse it. Yeah. Anyway, so it's good to hear that there's another organization out there that sounds like you have the right idea about how to do that in a responsible way.
Yeah, and I think there's players out there who obviously want to do that work. They want to be the spy.
Sure.
They want to be the scout that goes ahead of everyone else to figure out what the battlefield's going to look like. I've always been I myself am a dedicated dogfighter, dedicated squad commander. I'm good at getting people to follow follow me into battle and do what I tell them to do in that battle and hopefully win the battle.
Nice.
And getting people to go ahead and scout, I think that just comes with the territory. I myself don't want to be that person. I want to be the person, like the first person to jump in and get hit with a missile. That's kind of who I am.
Well, and the way you describe that actually outlines two ways that it happens. You have the people when they say, scouting or getting information, all they think of is like, you're wearing a black cloak and you're a spy. But really, the majority of information and intelligence that's going to be gathered in the universe is going to be your forward people who just are flying ahead and just gathering visual information, or your person who's landing on a planet and recording the economic status of, the merchants there, if that's not available remotely. You know what I mean? It's basically the people that are just reporting simple everyday information in a usable context.
Yeah, and,
so
that's something
that I think
explorers are going to be super valuable.
Oh yeah,
I think
absolutely.
almost more so than a battlefield scout is an explorer because economy is war, and you can see that in Eve. In Eve, the economy is the war. It's all about money at the end of the day. Although I guess if you're a goon swarm person, maybe not. Sorry, I shouldn't mention them. The idea though about exploring and finding those resources and getting that intel, I find that fascinating. I've always loved exploring, but I'm a dedicated dogfighter, so I kind of hang back. But I would love to go take out a freelancer and just explore the universe sometime.
Ooh, good question. So day one, what are you going to do?
Oh boy.
Hey now, quit that. No.
Probably crash two Idrises together.
No. We saved those questions for last, Raz.
But you're thinking, I'm not asking that question.
That's different.
You just did.
No, I didn't say what's the craziest thing you want to do. I said
that's up in there.
Now, like the thing is too is like I'm a good dog fighter and all that. I like the combat, but I like a lot of other things. But I always imagined day one I'd have like a freelancer duration and I'd be out by myself, making that gold rush for the things that can only be discovered once. Although I'm sure that won't work out. How when they get to the end of the day, it'll be procedurally generated jump points, and who knows if we'll actually find things we can actually name personally for good.
I hope they filter some of the names that people choose.
I'm gonna go and find. I'm gonna go and find a jump point, a small, very narrow one. I'm gonna name it Traz's Hole.
Oh, boy.
Because I could totally see I could totally see somebody in Traz's Gateway. There you go.
No, man, you got to name it after Trazium. It's like a unobtainium. It's its own element. Come on, man. It's an
Oh
ion.
boy.
Traz ion. Trazium.
Oh, boy.
Come on. Come on.
No. No mystery. All right. Well, where are we at? Well, there's a. Okay, I see what's happening here. Well, it's on you actually, Trav.
What? No, it's not. Oh, you think I'm following those cute little V's and T's that you put in there?
You don't have to. Gotta love it.
Oh, okay, all right. Oh, you want me to be specific? We already talked about the HOTAS experience. Anyhow,
I know.
All right. Well, here's the question. Any tips for keyboard and mouse tuners that you would be willing to share in regards to going from keyboard mouse to full HOTAS setup?
Oh boy. So what I would suggest, so if you don't want to spend, and I know there are people, and we have a couple of them over in my group, that like to spend hours setting up their HOTAS and getting everything working. But I unboxed that thing and I wanted to fly with it. I didn't want to be messing around with the buttons forever. So I actually ended up finding, thanks to a friend of mine, finding a preset XML file to use with it. It took me about a total of maybe close to an hour to figure out everything, get everything downloaded and good to go. But once I did, it's fairly intuitive. There were many things that I needed to change because I think I don't have enough thumb control for, I think thumb discipline. At the top, I'm just hitting all these buttons when I'm trying to click things. But my recommendation is that you spend a lot of time thinking about what stick you want and whether it's the right move for you. I think the recommendations I give to people is a mouse pilot, and some people disagree with me. I think a good mouse pilot, can always out-aim a HOTAS pilot every day, day in and day out.
Easily.
But you will never outfly.
Yes. Pretty much.
And so that's the decision you got to make, is whether you think you can aim well enough to out kill somebody out survive. Let's go to the persistent universe. I won't always talk about Arena Commander. And so like in the persistent universe, you have a bigger space to work with. And I don't think the contrast you see between HOTAS pilots and mouse pilots in Arena Commander is exactly the same in persistent universe. But I think it really helps with your immersion, and it makes it really much more interesting to be flying with a HOTAS in the persistent universe than a mouse and keyboard. But I think that my major tip is go find a preset XML file that has a nice tutorial and is very easy to walk you through, because it can be pretty intimidating when you unbox your $100, or you can get cheaper HOTAS, and you have no idea what to do with it.
Yeah. No, that's fair advice. I like it.
Wasn't that a great question, folks? Wasn't that a wonderful question? What kind of profile do you use?
So I used, and I can give a link to it, and you can include it. Solarfly's StarCitizen Thrustmaster Warthog HOTAS file. So it'll only work for the Thrustmaster, but Thrustmaster is a great stick, and I know a lot of people have it. And so if that's the stick you go with, I would definitely check his out. I wouldn't necessarily keep all his configuration, but you can mess with it.
I do have another question for you. So I fly the Warthog stick, but I do not fly the Warthog throttle. What are you using to handle your strafe up, down, left, right? Are you using left-hand thumb on the throttle to do that?
So I actually use the thumb on the throttle to do my roll, and I use my index finger to do the strafe. And I can tell you that I'm going to need to change something, because I walk away every night with a lot of hurting fingers. Because I
imagine since you've got those pedals coming in the mail, you'll probably put roll on the pedals.
Exactly.
So
that's the goal.
Now, does the throttle have an analog thumbstick at all, or is everything on it binary?
It does have a thumbstick. It has actually two thumbsticks on the main part of the throttle, one on the front and one on the side. And the front, I have the front one to strafe, because I usually run my speed between 50 and like my throttle between 50 and 100%.
Right.
And so bringing my index finger up in those positions is actually not too bad, like pulling up. And for the most part, I always strafe up. I almost never strafe down or left, right. I strafe up. It kind of forces people to circle fight me. And in general, circle fighting as a HOTAS player, you're going to be a mouse pilot because mouse pilots have to move their ship while aiming,
Right.
and they can't hit you if you're above you.
I feel a match coming on later on. Anyway. Anywho, you're working towards a legal profession. What kind of legal structures or systems, traffic laws, drug laws, tort reform, and all that such? What are you looking forward to seeing represented, albeit not as pure or as heavy in Star Citizen? I mean, certainly we're not going to have stop signs in space that are enforced.
We might.
Oh, God.
I mean, they're
I'm in
certainly not
trouble.
going to have patent law, probably.
Funny.
As much as I would
Absolutely.
totally go into that.
I think 10 for the chairman. He was just saying that patent law all the way.
Actually, that's a funny question because can't you become like a commerce guru and like control an entire supply chain marketing node? So maybe you could.
I mean, you could. I definitely think an aspect of it would be interesting is, and I mean, you have some interesting one highlighted like traffic laws, drug laws, and tort laws. And I think drug laws, with the advent of potential meth labs on endeavors, I definitely exactly. I think that would be very interesting seeing the UEE SWAT teams busting down the door.
Oh my God, that would be awesome.
Yes, it would actually. Come to think of it.
As long as the whole time they're moving through corridors to try to flush you out room to room, they're going hut 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 hut.
Like 3 Redeemers form in just to drop police on. I could see that. That'd be fun.
I think another aspect would be interesting, and this has happened in Eve, but contract law of some sort. I'm not talking like the boring contract drafting itself, but actually like contracts between, for instance, a mercenary organization and
that's cool.
Another organization. If those contracts can actually be enforced, or like if there's some sort of body that can enforce, and I think this would be an interesting idea for a standalone player-run organization, like enforcers that enforce contracts. They do like contract insurance. You hire a bunch of mercenaries to do a job, they don't do it. Well, that organization pays you and then goes and gets the money from that organization.
No joke, man. Like you have you signed the contract, at the bottom of the contract it says this contract is insured and bonded by, gold bonds, psycho destroyer mercenary group.
Yeah.
You're like, oh, so if I betray this,
so would you want to pay in credits or fingers?
That'd be awesome.
I would like to see that. That'd be funny. I can finally roleplay my dream of being Judge Dredd. Got it.
Nice.
So, where were you? You forgot to pay your protection fees to little Tony. Anywho.
Right. So, what about friends and family, man? Like, do you, I mean, this is usually a pretty big game for the people that are passionate and active these days, like at this stage of the game. Like, do you have any friends or family that are close to you that are in? Or is it mostly just gamers that you know online that you've played other games with?
Well, I got my one of my roommates actually. I convinced him to buy it. He was very
skeptical.
Skeptical is the right word. And him and a couple of his friends I've managed to convince. I haven't convinced my girlfriend yet. Maybe if there's farming in it, she'll do it.
There is.
Endeavor, yo.
And then I also actually, funny enough, I was walking around my law school beginning of the year, and ran into a guy in the hallway wearing a Star Citizen sweater.
Yes!
And I was like, there's no way that there's another law student at this school who plays the game. And so I go up to him, and apparently he's huge. He spent like $1,000 on the game. He is absolutely excited for it, and he wants to play with me.
Awesome. That's the thing. I really regret, like, I used to play EverQuest way back in the day, and we had such an amazing experience. It was a one-of-a-kind thing. And I think when Sony burned us out and everybody kind of spread to the 4 winds, it was back before you really had online. Like, it was still a social faux pas to have friends that you only knew online. Like, who does that? They're going to abduct you. It was this huge social pressure. And, so a lot of people just walked away from it. I mean, I have a couple of friends that I know from that day But I mean, if that organization and that guild if we'd all stayed kind of compadres through the years playing different games, this would have been amazing, you know. And instead, it's like I've come back to this. I feel like I've had to rebuild that from scratch, you know. And we don't even have a game to play together yet, you know. It's a big part of what the Facebook group is actually for.
I think
networking and friendship.
I had a real life friend a while back in high school when everyone thought they were going to be a programmer and make millions, and then but we were talking about it and we were brainstorming. We wanted to make the game to end all games, and we envisioned a space game with first-person shooter, RTS of some sort, and like a space simulator like Freelancer. And this was back in like 2009 that we were like brainstorming this, and it kind of just fell away. I mean, I went off, he went off, and then
you
like I
finally moved away from Colorado. Gotcha.
California at the time, but then I went to Washington.
Oh, come on.
And then I talked to him and I sent him this link to StarCitizen. Like, dude, somebody's making the game.
Yes.
And he instantly bought it.
I you know, that's very. I think that's why this community is so passionate, because that's exactly it is spoken that same message to so many people.
I mean, what else can you actually do to, you know, like, I can go and take an Aurora, hop out of it, you know, EVA to another ship, pop a guy in the head, all of a sudden I get a free ship. Then all of a sudden there's another guy that comes in and chases me down for a bounty. I'm just creating mission after mission after mission, but it's objectifiable. I'm creating the events in the game as it unfolds, and there's no loading screens or instances or where you have to go and go and do this thing. It's completely seamless, and that's something that I've been looking forward to, is the fact that you can create the economy, you can create the world as you're playing in it with the actions that you do. That's something that, you know, I really would look forward to. I've been waiting for that for a long time.
Yep.
Yeah, and I really look forward to the persistent universe, see what it offers. I mean, single player is going to be great, and I'm glad they're working on it hard. But I really just want to get in the universe with my group and everyone and see how it is.
Is there anybody you want to give a shout out to?
I mean, besides my group, Phantom Regiment, I think that the players that I've met and you guys, I mean, I love that you guys are making this kind of content. That you guys are putting the time and effort to do this. I think it's great. If just one new player catches a glimpse of this kind of content and is like, I want to play Star Citizen, I want to buy Star Citizen, I think that's what we need to have a successful game. And if there weren't people like you guys, and I mean, I'm starting my own YouTube channel, I need to get a professional video editing software.
Nice.
But I think that we need that kind of content out there. There's a lot of people, you go on Reddit, you go on Imgur, go on these PC Gamer comments section, you see all this skepticism. And I don't think people understand that this game is becoming something cool, and it already is something cool. We had a flight night the other night, and these two guys who hadn't even bought the game yet were in the flight night. It was a free flight week. And they're like, dude, we had no idea the game was already this far. We had no idea you could do all this stuff. And I think it's a shame. I think it's a shame that people don't already know that.
I mean, in a sense, it is and it isn't, because part of that's because we don't have, like, you know, advertising in the traditional sense, but the fact that the word of mouth means that it's a lot more intimate and personal. So when people do finally hit that realization, it has a lot higher impact, you know?
Yeah.
Is there anything? Go ahead.
I'm sorry. And I think the lack of professional advertising lowers the hype train a little bit. I think.
Yeah, hopefully.
But how much would that cost just to go and have the professional advertising? I'd rather them spend the money on the game in the first place, and they put it to the right goal.
Put it in development.
Anything that you'd like to add, and any questions you got for us? Anything like that?
No, I just, I mean, the one thing that I hope, and maybe years from now we'll laugh at this comment, I hope that the developers integrate the players into crafting their lore. I don't want to have a bunch of players go, say, like some terrorist pirate organization assaults the largest UEE floating citadel, and they don't even put it in the lore-based news. Like, that would just
I think they will,
so
though.
sad.
I mean, we've crowdfunded a team of people that are going to do exactly that. They're going to play, you know, have something to do with the
Arbiters.
game. No, not the Arbiters. Arbiters something else.
Okay.
But no, an actual, like, PR team for inverse lore. So I'm pretty sure that all the writers are going to be staying on and assisting with that kind of, basically the news reporting. What I want is I hope that they tie that in to where there's a submission system so that the players that are running around in that news van can actually submit, material, both written and videoed. But anyways, so we're getting close to the end of the show, so I'm sure that Vadran is gonna,
I got
he's
one more
ready,
thing
he's
to
gonna
add.
want to kick off some final 5 questions.
I actually got one more thing to add this time, so you can go ahead and have that one if you want to. But
No,
okay,
man, it's all you.
all right. Well, the thing that I was going to add was that Godric and myself, we were talking about the absolute security, how the guns go off near Port Olisar, and
They're
we
just
were
really excited.
what it is that it was a really heated debate. Not really heated, but there was some passion involved, and well, I'm wanting to have a world where anything can actually happen. Like I want the Impetrator to however you call him, however you pronounce him. I want him to be able to be killed.
Are
I'm wanting
you
to.
What are you talking about?
are you referring
Okay.
to the thread that I made about
Yes, about how people had gotten into that thread about how you were asking about the realism of how the guns are turned off and that you were wanting for there to always be a way for
well,
there to be. Go ahead.
yeah, let me just elaborate on that a little bit
Thank
because
you.
I think I worded that poorly initially, and some people misunderstood what I was trying to say.
Well, go ahead.
Basically, so if a station has the ability um, to turn on the safeties on human ships, um, and we already know the UEE does not have that ability to turn off the safeties or turn on the safeties for example, Van Duel ships. That
Mm-hmm.
means logically that every UEE manufactured chip comes pre-installed with some kind of technical
With a safety
gadget
mechanism.
that allows the station to communicate to the ship systems. Okay, I am turning your weapons safeties on now, and you can't fire. Now, granted, okay, I can go ahead and turn off those weapon safeties. However, from a realism perspective, um, if something like that existed in real life, nobody would want such a system installed on their ship simply
Certainly not.
because it's a liability. Why, how do I know that a pirate or a Van Duel down the road are not going to be able to exploit that to their advantage? Okay, so that was really the main angle where I was coming from. Plus the fact that any skilled technician would be able to hack that device and either just uninstall it altogether or bypass it or something like that. So it was really just that angle that I wanted to
Yeah, and
you know.
there are some of these PvE. I respect PvE players, but there's these PvE purists that say that you should not be able to turn off said safety mechanisms, and that there should always be a safe place to let you. The expression was let your hair go down and all that. Well,
Yeah.
my point of view was that there always needs to be a way to bypass the systems. There's always needs to be a way that you can attack the highest level all the way down to the lowest level. And
Well,
so,
my point was that it seems unrealistic to me to have something like that pre-installed
well,
on
yeah,
ships to begin with. Again,
and
it's a liability. It's a liability issue.
and they had said previously too that what's going to happen is that there'll be auto turrets and other kind of solutions that will come into play that will
Yeah,
just shoot you to ribbons as soon as you try to do something like that.
and
But
that
the
makes a
idea,
lot more sense.
well, from a person that wants to play a dedicated assassin or a person that wants to play as a more illegitimate role, I need to go and get this mark. There has to be a way to actually get that mark. And if he's always sitting there inside of Crusader and he never leaves the area, then dang it,
Well,
Trask.
why not this? I mean, I think it would make a lot more sense um, if if there was a decree. Hey, if you're going to be within X miles of UEE enforced space, then you are required to turn your weapon safeties on. Okay, if the station then detects that your weapon safeties are off, it will be assumed that you're coming in as a hostile and you will be fired upon after a warning. Okay,
So,
that mechanic would make a lot more sense.
so let me explain why I brought this up. Like I was saying before, that Anubis was discussing that he wants us to be able to create the stories of the world, to be able to create the lore as it happens. Well, with that in mind,
Or at least
if
affect it.
right, and where I'm coming from is that I want to be able. I don't necessarily personally want to be able to kill like the king of the UEE per se, but I would want that to be a chance. I would want it to be a incredibly hard to do. You're stupid for trying it. You're going to get punished out like crazy kind of chance. But I'd want there to be that legitimate chance. And there's these purist people that would say that there's just got to be a place where you can't shoot anybody, and there's that you can commit no crime because that's just
Yeah.
absolutely what needs to happen. That's the reason why I wanted to tie that in there, is because I would want to be able to have that level of lore creation. Because playing WoW, you could go and kill the kings and all that such. Oh boy. Anyway,
Yeah.
if you liked it,
Well,
you should have put a super collider ring on it.
Well, I mean, from that point of view, I mean, imagine in real life, imagine you buy a gun somewhere, knowing that anytime you come close to, say, a U.S. military base, your gun is automatically disabled. I
Yeah.
mean,
Well,
that's just as realistic, or if you will, unrealistic.
right. It basically it infringes on our ideals of civil rights. But
Yes, yes.
the thing is and I agree with you. I think that it should be something that if they have it in game, it should be something that can be countered with a hack or something like that. But of course, you're going to have other repercussions and consequences if you break that law. But the
Well,
ability to break that law should still be there.
it's pretty much more or less confirmed that that yes, it can be hacked, but again, why have that liability installed on your ship in the first place?
Yeah. Well, I don't think that they're going to stay with that as the permanent solution. I think that right
Yeah.
now, it's a matter of they had to have something in place, and then down the road,
Yeah.
now
Well,
let me make a quick counter argument.
I love it.
If you're flying over a populated city, it might be fair to assume that they're going to put a transponder on your airplane. I mean, they do, you mean like things like that. So identification, there are certain things that are just, mandated across the board for the overall safety of all. So it could be that, that the UE has something like that in your stations. Although something that disables weapons does seem a little weird.
That would be a
Right,
hell of a
right.
hack too, wouldn't
And
it?
to be sure, I wasn't referring to the way it's currently implemented at Port Olisar. I was referring to the way it's written in the lore piece that I had linked in that thread. Because in the lore piece, it says specifically that the station will automatically turn on your weapon safeties for you. Now, sure, again, you can go ahead and you can turn off the weapon safeties yourself manually. But again, why would I want to have something installed on my ship that a pirate or the Vanduul, for that matter, could potentially use to their advantage? Hey, I'm a pirate. I'm going to go and hack that ship and turn on their weapon safeties. So that's what I'm saying. It's a liability.
I just want to let all of our 7 listeners know that we are trolling Vadron right now, actively.
Don't worry, I'm trolling back.
Uh-huh.
Anyway.
Hey Anubis.
Yeah, what's up?
We've kind of carried this a long ways. Do you have anything to weigh in on any of that before we roll out?
I mean, I think that I agree with the being able to do anything and I think that the station would easily be able to detect you turning off your safeties,
Right.
and in a world
Exactly.
where the security doesn't have to jump in or magically appear, I think that you would instantly be targeted by whatever large guns the station has, large ships around, and just obliterated.
Absolutely.
Right. And even if you can bypass those defenses because you just happen to be there in a capital, the reputation hit and the long-term consequences are going to be enough that you're still going to pay for it.
Exactly.
Now I'm going to go ahead and proceed with the reading of the trolling. You ready, guys? This is going to be fun. Well, guys laughed at the end of the show and decided to go all night long. Sing's never going to give you up, never going to let you down, never going to turn around and hurt you, never going to make
That's
you cry,
not
never going to say
singing.
goodbye. I'm not singing it. I said I was going to read it. Never
Never
going to lie, tell a lie.
Never gonna let you down.
There you go.
Oh
there you go.
boy,
Never going to
Patrick's got it.
turn around
Sing it, buddy.
and hurt you.
Oh, God.
You
We're gonna
sir
make a
have
meme
been
of
Rick
that.
Astley.
There you go. There you go. Rapid fire
We're
questions. You ready,
Rickrolling our
Anubis?
host.
I was born ready.
All right. So we've already kind of answered this, but just for grins and giggles, keyboard and mouse or HOTAS?
HOTAS.
Favorite flyable ship?
Super Hornet.
Favorite future ship?
Ooh, Javelin.
Basic,
Yeah.
ballistic, or energy weapons? Maybe something fancy.
Energy weapons in the current desync, but ballistic generally.
All right. Craziest shenanigans and hijinks that you want to pull off at gang launch?
I want to board me a Vandal mothership.
That's pretty crazy. All right. Epic answers as always. Anubis, thanks for coming out to Station 42.
Yep.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man.
Thanks for
Definitely.
coming.
Thanks for coming on the show. And yep.
Yeah, it's great being here.
All right. Well, thanks to all of our listeners, new and old alike. Thank you for spending your listening time with us. If you liked our show, be sure to like and to subscribe. Feedback is always appreciated.
And don't forget, if you like the intro and outro music of today's episode, be sure to check it out in the links in the YouTube notes. That's free for download to anybody that wants it.
That's right. It's good stuff, man. He puts it together and it sounds good. So give it a spin.
Thanks, everyone. We will see you next week with more trollage.
All right. It rubs the lotion on the skin and plays that outro beat.
Again.
Here we go.